Welcome everyone. Glad to see you on my channel. Today I will tell you about an unusual story, an amazing story about companionship and love. I wish you a pleasant audience.
Lucy decided to call her daughter early this morning. The daughter picked up the phone and immediately expressed her displeasure. "Mom, what's wrong? When are you going to stop calling so early?" Casey was indignant. "Why are you still up early in the morning?" asked her mother out of habit. "Because I went to bed late watching a movie. While you are at home watching movies outside, you are waiting for all the most beautiful nature wakes up. The air is fresh, flowers are blooming. I could put on my sneakers and run in this beauty until I fall. It's beautiful," said my mother. "Mom, you're going to retire soon, and you're still thinking like a teenager." The daughter continued to resent me. "Tell me what happened. Who spoiled your mood?" asked the mother. "Actually, I left work yesterday." "Well, that's right. It's always been stressful for you. You'll find a new one, it'll be better. You've already gained experience. Now you know how to choose the right place." "Mom, that's half the problem. You remember I told you about Joe, the one who was making nice with me? Well, I found him interesting. We started seeing each other. And then the other day I found out he had another girl on the side." "Well, that's great," said Mom. "Mom, are you kidding me? How did you want your Joe to stay a secret for 5 or 10 years? Would it have been better for you to find out the whole truth with 2 small children in his arms?" Mom asked. Casey fell silent. "Mom's right. Do you still want to grieve over some unserious Joe?" Mom asked and laughed. "So you're saying it's okay?" Casey clarified. "Of course it is. What I'm trying to tell you is that nothing in this life works the first time. No one's ever had a great career on the first try. No one has ever managed to become fabulously happy from their first relationship. Life more often than not provides opportunities for lessons to prepare for something real. If a person doesn't understand these lessons, dwells on failures and nurtures resentment, then he or she is preventing his or her own further progression to happiness." "Mom, you make it sound so easy," said Casey. "You know, daughter, that your mom has been through it all herself," said Lucy. "By the way, you promised me earlier that you would tell me the story of how you and your father met, and then we never got back to it," said Casey. "I'll tell you about it, but let's decide with you first. Since you don't have a boyfriend or a job now, you have 1 million options in front of you right now, where to go and what to do. If you want, you can come down here, stay for a week, relax, and come back. If you want, you can just be by yourself and let me know what you decide later. Now I have to run somewhere," Lucy said and said goodbye to her daughter. Casey hung up the phone and thought about her mother's words. These words calmed her down and gave her some optimism. I wonder if all daughters are as lucky to have mothers as Casey. Casey took a pen and paper and began to write out her wish list for the next few days. It turned out there were a lot of them, but none of them were realistic. Here again, Casey thought, she needed her mother's advice. So now she'd better go to her mother and father's house and spend a week there. Parents usually know how to find the right words for their children. When Casey arrived, her parents weren't home. Lucy had a great time being around creative people. As of late, she has developed an interest in the visual arts. With a little effort, she had made a lot of friends. One of them invited her to an exhibition today. The exhibition was very informative. Having received a lot of impressions, Lucy leisurely came home, and on the doorstep she was met by her daughter. Casey immediately climbed on her mother's neck. They stood in each other's arms for a while. "Mom, I want to make dinner for you and Dad tonight," Casey said. "Did you have any other choice? We were going to make you do it anyway," said the mother, barely hiding her laughter. She loves to tease her daughter like that. "And yes, why just today? Or maybe we want to eat dinner out of your hands every day while you're here." What's so calculating about Lucy's parents? Kept making jokes about their daughter. "Well, okay, yours has taken over. Just promise me that after dinner you'll tell me your story with your father," said Casey. Lucy promised, and after dinner did indeed fulfill her promise. Mother and daughter traveled together to those distant years then, when nothing foreshadowed such happiness as now. Chapter 2. Lucy was born an ordinary girl. Her growth and development pleased her mother's heart every day. But as the years passed, something went wrong. By the age of 5, Her mother noticed that one of the girl's legs was lagging behind in development. They tried many things, but nothing really helped. As a child, Lucy didn't suffer much from her handicap. The first disappointment caught up with her when she went to school. Special girl peers noticed at once. Already on the second day, her peers came up with a nickname for her, Snail. The insect itself is harmless, but girls and children were offended because with this nickname, peers ridiculed her gait. She has to walk slowly, as she has to first take a step with one foot and then reposition the other. After another 6 months, Lucy was completely refusing to go to school, and she was already terribly embarrassed by her gait. For the sake of not being ridiculed, she was ready to give up her studies. Her parents lived in the village, and the nearest school for children with disabilities was 2 hours away. Lucy's mother didn't think long. She took her daughter to the school for the disabled and got her a place there. There she found friends in spirit. Lucky with the teachers, they not only taught, but also shaped the personality of these special children. Lucy studied well. She had a dream of becoming a doctor and treating others. In fact, deep down, she dreamed of curing herself. When she turned 14, her first love came. It was a handsome and quiet boy from a parallel class named Tony. But Lucy wasn't the only one who liked Tony. There was another girl, Nanny, the first pretty girl in the class. One day, Tony approached Lucy for the first time and offered to carry her backpack. Lucy blushed at first, lowered her eyes, and silently held out her backpack. "We shouldn't be embarrassed that we are special," Tony said unexpectedly. "Yes, then why do other normal kids insult us?" Lucy asked. "My mom explained to me that only ill-mannered kids do that. And if we take offense to them or insult them in return, we become equal to them. What do you want to be when you grow up?" Lucy asked Joe. "A doctor. I want to be a doctor too. I'll treat little children so they won't suffer if they get sick," said Lucy. "In that case, I have something to offer you. My mom bought me a book. It's all about how the human body works. It's very interesting to study. If you want, we can read it together. If you don't understand something, I can explain it to you. I've already read this book 3 times, said Tony. Lucy was glad that there was such a good reason to spend more time with her beloved. They periodically sat down, somewhere in the park, near the school, in the courtyard of the boarding school, or in the common dining room to look together at the fascinating world of human anatomy. This news quickly reached Nanny. She became jealous. How was this so? She's always trying to get in front of this Joe guy, and he chose this unassuming girl. Nanny couldn't get over it. Nanny had battle buddies just like her. They worked together to come up with a plan to punish this Lucy. And 2 days later, Lucy received a secret letter signed as from Joe. She opened the envelope and saw a piece of paper with a red paste drawn hard on it. And at the bottom, in neat handwriting, the time and place of the meeting. Lucy didn't even doubt that it was a letter from Joe. They really did have this habit of putting on paper what they couldn't say to each other to their faces. At the appointed time and place, Lucy arrived ahead of time around no one. It was the backyard of some apartment building, not far from the boarding school. While the girl stood and looked around all around, someone came up from behind and instantly blindfolded her with a blindfold. She did not have time to react as a stranger, knocked her to the ground and started hitting her in the face. "Who do you think you are? Have you lost your fear? You're no match for Joe. And if you go near him again, it'll be much worse. I'll catch you and shake your head off," the other girl threatened. Lucy was scared, so she didn't fight back. She said what the aggressor wanted to hear. She promised never to go near Joe again. Then the girl quickly withdrew, leaving Lucy on the ground with her eyes bound. Lucy got up to shake herself off, barely waddling her feet back to the boarding school dormitory. From that day on, she never went near Joe again. But Tony was puzzled. He thought he had offended Lucy in some way. The more she avoided him, the more he sought her out. He waited for her after school, came to her door, flooded her with letters, and sought to meet her. Lucy hoped he would soon stop running after her. One day, Tony did catch her at lunch in the common dining room. "What's wrong? Why are you avoiding me? Did I do something to offend you?" he asked. "It's nothing to do with you. It's just something I decided to do," said Lucy and hurried away. But it was too late. The cunning Nanny managed to spot the 2 lovebirds. The second time, Nanny didn't warn her. She sent one of her friends to lead them to a secluded place in one of the courtyards of the apartment buildings. You seem to think too highly of yourself. Had you seen yourself in the mirror? What am I talking about? You can't even imagine how ugly you look when you move like a snail. You look like a turtle from the side. What makes you think Tony likes you? Maybe you're just a fantasist. Do you want another ride on the ground, or are you gonna think about it? Said Nanny. Lucy realized that she was powerless before this embittered group of girls. There were 5 of them, and she was alone. Especially now she realized that last time she was also beaten by one of them, and that one was quite strong. Lucy's abrasion still hadn't healed, so she immediately gave out the right answer. I promise he won't come near me again. I don't need him, Lucy said. She turned around and hurried away. As she walked, there was laughter behind her. They called her names, insulted and humiliated her. Even though these girls were themselves flawed, they didn't show it as much as Lucy did. Meanwhile, Tony was in a real depression. If Lucy doesn't explain anything, but still avoids him, there must be some delicate reason. For example, it could be because he's not physically perfect either. That's what he's decided for himself. Not so long ago, his mother convinced him in every possible way that he was just like everyone else. For the sake of distraction, she even bought different books, enrolled him in additional circles. But then his first love turned out to be cruel. Now Tony's wounded to the core again. Only this time it's a lot worse. It was easier when it was just teasing, but here the person he loved had rejected him. Lucy looked at him furtively now, and her heart clenched. She could see how he lost weight, his shoulders slumped, and one of those days Tony stopped coming to class altogether. Then it turned out he was very sick, and his mother took him home. Close friends said that Joe had actually been admitted to hospital for long-term treatment. This made Lucy feel even worse. She thought she had found her soulmate and then chickened out on her own and treated her soulmate cruelly. He couldn't stand it and even got sick. He is suffering somewhere and she is calm because she escaped the beating. In the evenings, Lucy would sit for long periods of time with her textbooks. She waited until her roommates had done their homework and gone to bed. She was the last one to go to bed. Also, no one would hear her sobbing for Tony on her pillow. There were endless nights like that. Tony never came back to that school. Lucy couldn't even find out if he had recovered or not. Maybe he wasn't even alive. Such thoughts drove her crazy. When she told everything to her mother, she was sympathetic. Time heals everything, my daughter. Don't think about the distant future. Everything will be fine there. What you need to do now is to cope with every next day. When you feel bad, try to support yourself at least at 1 o'clock, and then at 2 o'clock, then until evening, and so every day. One day you will wake up and feel that everything is behind you, said the mother. That's what she did. Tony eventually forgot, but the hardest remained. Lucy found salvation in books, dabbled in self-discovery through knowledge, and came to the source of her heartache. Every word previously spoken about the imperfection of her health formed a drop of anger in her. The anger did not slumber. From time to time, she poured out her anger on others. Lucy was well aware of this. Book knowledge helped her find an outlet. Every time one wanted to say an angry word, one had to do the opposite. Trailing off, Lucy learned how to translate every bad thought into a good one. At first, it was a mind game. After a while, Lucy grew to love the process. A little time passed and it was as if her heartaches began to let go. But the habit of translating everything bad into good remained with her. Chapter 3. Lucy graduated from boarding school with honors, but she couldn't get into medical school. The competition was too big. At first she was sad. Then she remembered her new principles. Translate bad things into good things. If I didn't get into school, then now I can work and earn money, and in a year try again. In that time I can reread dozens of books, she convinced herself. Finding a job was a real challenge for her. She was terribly afraid that someone would remind her of her physical flaw so that she wouldn't get a job. And so it happened. Several places politely hinted that they could not accept people with physical disabilities, although they might not have said that, but simply refused. With each new refusal, Lucy kept convincing herself that there was a new chance and new introductions ahead. The lucky chance did not take long to arrive. She was accepted as secretary to the head of the factory. The head turned out to be a good man, but strict boss Lucy worked with enthusiasm. In parallel, she had time to check her unique principle of translating all the bad into good. The accountant of the plant Lily was famous among her colleagues for her evil character. Everyone was terribly afraid of her. If Lily was in a bad mood, she spoiled it for everyone else. She was also obese behind her back. Other colleagues whispered that the reason for her bad temper was loneliness. She was in her 60s and had no one close to her. Lily would go to the nearest store all day long, pick up delicious food, and eat at her desk all the time. This made her even more obese, and Lucy genuinely wanted to help this woman. One day she came over and asked if she needed to buy something from the store. "Are you kidding me? Someone sent you here on purpose to make fun of me." Lily snapped at Lucy, and Lucy had to silently return to her workplace. Then she thought of another way to make friends with the mean woman. She picked some wildflowers on her way to work, picked a nice bouquet and left it on Lily's desk while she was still out. At first, Lily looked at the bouquet warily, but when Lucy also left her fourth bouquet in a month for her with wishes for a good day, Lily started to smile. Then she approached her once more and asked her if she needed to buy anything at the store. "Are you really that naive or stupid? Don't you have anything else to do but run to the store for me?" asked Lily. "Why do you think people should hate each other by default? Why do you think they can't just do nice things for each other?" asked Lucy. Lily could not find anything to answer. She had not participated in such lofty conversations before. "There was a time when I was very bad. Nothing helped. Then I invented a game. It's very simple. When a bad thought comes into my head, I turn it into a good one. Same thing with words. I don't know how it works, but I really like it. And other people really like it too. I wondered if you might like it too," said Lucy. "Sit on the couch. What happened to you at such a young age that you have such thoughts in your head?" asked Lily. Lucy saw a keen interest in her. She sat down on the old sofa in the corner of the accountant's office and with a smile on her face told what she had gone through as a child and as an adult because of her physical handicap. Strangely enough, Lily listened with great interest and even nodded occasionally. "Once I noticed that there is enough bad and good in the world, whoever wants what he gets." Lucy finished her story. "You are still very young, almost a child. You have your whole life ahead of you. So many interesting things are waiting for you. You shouldn't dwell on your health problems," said Lily back. "You see, you just said warm words to me, and then everyone said that you are evil," Lucy said and was afraid of it herself. "Who said that?" asked Lily. In an instant, she was mean again. "It doesn't matter, but I can tell you who doesn't think that about you. I'll tell you all of them," said Lucy and began to call out the names of all the coworkers she could remember. "Okay, no need for that. I know I'm mean, but your words made me think," Lily said. "I think it would be fun for us to play this game together. Can I drop by sometimes just to ask you how you're feeling?" Lucy asked. Lily got up from her chair, walked over to Lucy, sat down next to her and hugged her. That meant she agreed to play along with her. 3 months of friendship between Lily and Lucy passed. During this time, Lily changed a lot. She stopped eating at her desk all the time. She started smiling at the people around her. She started to exchange nice phrases with people unexpectedly. The atmosphere in the team became different. People started working better. The director noticed that the plant's performance even increased. And all this is thanks to one nice girl. Chapter 4. Meanwhile, a young boy named Rocky was less fortunate. 2 months ago, he was in an accident, after which his legs refused to walk. Rocky has no parents, only an elderly grandmother. The elderly woman is doing her best to give her grandson motivation to live, but her efforts are in vain. Before the accident, Rocky had shown great promise. He launched his business with his friends and managed to earn some money. At the same time, his girlfriend Nancy showed up. Nancy seemed to be a loving girlfriend, but after Rocky became a wheelchair user, Nancy began to appear in his life less and less often. 3 days ago, she promised to drop by after lunch. She never showed up. And when Rocky called to find out what was wrong, Nancy finally told him the truth. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry you're in such trouble. I don't want to lie to you anymore. I wasn't ready for such an ordeal. You and I can't go any further." Nancy said it straight. Until that day, Rocky had been optimistic. He didn't skip any exercise and obeyed all his medications. The doctor said it made sense to make the effort. After Nancy told her truth, Rocky stopped, concerned about his health. That same night, he decided to have a serious talk with his grandmother. "Grandma, I'm ashamed you have to feed me. I've always dreamed of making a lot of money and spoiling you. I managed to earn something, but I never had time to do anything nice for you. And now I feel bad about it. Please call my neighbor Harry to help me get to the Central Square tomorrow. I want to get out in public and look for opportunities for myself," said Rocky. Grandma agreed. Uncle Harry rolled the baby carriage to the Central Square in town the next day and left it there. Rocky decided to beg and at the same time interact with people and ask for advice. He realized that he couldn't do without interacting with other people, and in the process he could earn some money, which he needed right now. Rocky put a small cardboard box in front of him with a note next to it saying he needed help. Someone gave him some change, someone passed by, but he always managed to find someone to talk to. Today it was homeless Barry. "You're a lucky guy. Everybody's giving you a lot of money. I've been hungry for 2 days, and I got a headache. People are getting a little mercenary. They don't give to everybody," said Barry. "If my legs were as good as yours, I wouldn't be here a minute longer. You could go to work and make decent money." Rocky answered him, "Work can't work for me. Work can't work at all, from the word slave, you know? My soul is begging for freedom. That's why I'm a citizen of the world," said Barry and tapped his fist on his chest, smiling, toothless mouth. Barry tried his best to attract the attention of passersby, but people quickened their steps and avoided him. Compared to Barry, Rocky was doing better. Toward lunchtime, some kind-hearted girl took a bag out of the supermarket and left it for Rocky. "Here's something for you to eat for lunch. Enjoy your lunch," said the girl and went about her business. In the bag was a hot meal in a container with appliances, a drink, some pastries, and sweets. Rocky gave Barry a treat, and when Barry saw how much the passersby had poured into Rocky's box, he became even more perplexed. "That's not how it works, buddy. You need to look somewhere else. And here you are, my bread." Barry was indignant. "If you want, we can split my proceeds in half. I'm here for a while anyway. I want to find some people who care about the job. Then we'll see where I go from here," said Rocky. "Are you serious? You think someone's gonna help you? I'm warning you, you're gonna be disappointed. This is my 4th year out here. And sometimes I'm grateful if I don't get whacked around the corner. Sometimes the security guard comes out of the store and chases you away. Sometimes the cops pick me up and take me to the monkey house. So your expectations of people are naive," said Barry. "I bet you that not everything is so bad in this world. I met some students my age today. One of them said he'd be willing to help with tuition. Like wheeling a wheelchair around. That's a good sign. I'll stay here another week, get to know other people. They usually offer to help," said Rocky. Their argument went on for quite a while. Barry did not want to agree that there are good people in the world. Rocky, on the other hand, didn't want to give up hope. The more they argued, the stronger their positions became. Toward evening, Rocky began to wait for his neighbor Uncle Harry. He would be getting off work in about an hour and would help Rocky get home on the way, and mentally made a shopping list with enough money collected. After lunch, there were significantly fewer people outside the supermarket. What delicious food! Relieved, Rocky dozed off for a few minutes. When he opened his eyes, he saw the empty space of his box in front of him. There was also all his money there, which people had served for the whole day. Rocky immediately guessed what had happened. Barry was nowhere to be seen, the money was gone, which meant they had found each other. In the following, such a story continued repeatedly. Then Barry steals money from Rocky, and then some other crazy person gets caught, who manages to steal the box. Rocky was angry because the alcoholic Barry was right. You really shouldn't expect anything good from strangers. It meant that all his plans, all his schemes, remained mere fantasies. Unless he could walk. Negative thoughts overcame Rocky rather quickly. Along with that, the number of pictures became much lower, and also because of this bad mood, meeting new people almost didn't work out. Chapter 5. Meanwhile, the gypsy Rosalia decided to conquer new territories. She took her daughter Annabelle out for the first time today. She's going to learn the basics of traditional magic. You see how many interesting people are out there. They all have their own dreams. So you and I have a lot of work to do, and you're going on about school and education. What's school gonna do for you? It'll only take up time. You'll end up an old diva. Then no one will marry you, she admonished her 10-year-old daughter. Mom, I'm too shy to approach strangers. Can't I just stay home? Daughter Anadelle is stubbornly looking for an excuse. What are you, a man, to stay at home? There's so much beautiful outdoors, so many opportunities, and you're always being drawn to the wrong place. Indignant mother Rosalia persuaded her daughter while she looked at the next victim. It turned out to be a middle-aged man of intelligent appearance. Now I will act, and you look carefully, said Rosalia to her daughter and hurried to meet the man. Young man, I see that you are worried about some questions in your head, and it is very timely, because right now the fate of those you are thinking about is being decided. Hold the pen, and I will tell you the best option, said Rosalia and stood in front of him across. Sorry, woman, but I do not believe in magic. Goodbye. The man replied politely and quickened his steps. Believing is up to you, but I can see that she's thinking of someone else and that both of them are messing with her head, talking against you, said Rosalia. The man slowed his step, but did not react. Rosalia noticed that she had hit the man's pain point. If you continue to do nothing, you'll let her go. She's only pretending to be lonely and unhappy because she believes it. And he's right in her neighborhood. He's your competition. He's strong, successful, confident. There's nothing stopping him in his tracks. Anyone who underestimates him loses to him. Careless like you are his best helpers in business and in love affairs, said Rosalia, looking somewhere in the distance over the man's shoulders. The man stopped, looked around, then whispered something to Rosalia, and together they retreated to a secluded place. The man pulled out his wallet and took out some large bills. Just tell me, how is she cheating on me? He asked. No, she's not cheating on me yet, but sometimes she has these thoughts. I don't understand why you hesitate. You love her. She wants a family, she wants children, and she wants to be a devoted wife. She knows how to be that. If you keep dragging your feet with your decision, you'll soon be wearing horns. She won't want to leave right away. She'll want to get back at you for all the years you've wasted, and she'll hurt your business. Is that what you want? Said Rosalia. The man was taken aback by the unexpected question. He seemed to have sweat on his forehead. You don't see everything. It's important for me to know which of my 3 women are we talking about, said the man. What makes you think you have 3? I only see 1. The other 2 keep you on a short leash to use when you need them. Both of them have better options. You're not even considered a serious partner, Rosalia said. The man thought for a moment. Then he was indignant that the gypsy had gotten something mixed up, but it was too late. Rosalia had already studied the man's background. What to do with this truth? Let him deal with it himself. And it's time for Rosalia to move on to her next client. If you want to know more, tomorrow bring some of her personal belongings, jewelry, good underwear or clothes. For today you have enough, Rosalie said to the man. He hurried away. She was a little nervous that the demonstration session for her daughter had not gone well. The main thing was to hit a person's pain point, and to think of options for the development of events is a simple matter. After you hit the pain point, you advise them to hurry up with their actions and let them decide what actions to take. If they want to know the end result, you promise a better outcome. It's called an illusion. They're all the same. A lot of money, a favorite person, power, defeated enemies, and so on. But in my 40 years of practice, no one has ever had an original wish. So here you can promise generously. For their dream, they are ready to pay any money. In short, you and I are selling them their dream. Got it? Rosalia turned to her daughter. As Rosalia and Annabelle passionately discussed the art of magic, Rocky watched them from afar. Sitting in his stroller, he was thinking about his own thoughts. But as soon as his eyes fell on the gypsy woman, for some reason he decided to talk to her. Hey, beautiful, come here. I have a question for you, said Rocky. Rosalia, as if she knew immediately what Rocky was going to ask. I can see you're a good guy. Well, you've got some hard way to go. Let me see your hand. Well, actually, you've been through most of the rough stuff. Now it's time for you to be on the cusp of success and happiness. You're gonna have a beautiful wife. Money will come in. Soon you'll have a big house. Everyone will respect and admire you," said Rosalia without waiting for Rocky's question. "That's not what I mean. It's all very unlikely. You tell me only one thing, in your opinion. Are there more good or evil people?" asked Rocky. "And what do you think about it?" asked Rosalia. "I think that neither good nor evil, in fact, more indifferent," answered Rocky. "You think so because you need other people. But once you start relying on yourself, you'll see people from a different perspective," said Rosalia. "You're just trying to make me feel better now. But I don't believe in fairy tales anymore. And you're right to expect it's not for you. You want action. If you want to know how, you can do it. I'll tell you the best way," said Rosalia. "No, you don't. I'll do it myself," replied Rocky. From the words of the gypsy, Rocky heard exactly as much as he needed at that moment. People are indifferent, he decided to himself. When he was tired of torturing himself with such thoughts, he decided not to think about it anymore. A few days later, an argument arose again between Rocky and Barry. Barry was dissatisfied that Rocky was being served more, and Rocky convinced him that he had the opportunity to quietly earn legal money. After a while, Barry even believed it. "Look, you seem like a smart guy. I took your advice and offered to help a gentleman with his chores." He said yes. Barry was jubilant. "Well, that's great. You just have to do a good job, and don't let him down. If the gentleman is satisfied, he'll invite you back later." Rocky encouraged him. In such a positive mood, Barry left to perform a simple task in the household. He promised to be back in 2 days, but he came back in 4, all bruised and bruised, barely able to waddle on his feet, moaning and groaning. "No, I was right, really. People have nothing sacred left. Where is it that a citizen of the world can be forced to work and then be lashed instead of being thanked?" Barry was outraged. "Did they beat you up?" asked Rocky. "How?" "First they made me plow like a slave. Then they beat me up and threw me in a landfill. Barely found my way back." When Rocky heard Barry's story, he was saddened, but Barry didn't tell the whole truth. He didn't tell him that the gentleman had paid him a fair wage for his labor. He'd already drunk the money. He didn't tell him that he'd stolen something from the master's house and been caught. That's why he got beaten up. But he wouldn't tell Rocky all that. But Rocky came to believe that the world was not as kind as his grandmother had told him. Fear and disappointment settled in him. A few days passed. Rocky was now afraid to meet new people, but one of the passersby took the initiative. "Young man, I recognize your constitutional right to work. If you are so inclined, I could offer you some simple work. You'll be able to do it. All you have to do is sit in front of a screen and watch what happens. How do you see it?" asked a respectable man of advanced age. Rocky remembered Barry's story and turned him down. The man politely apologized and withdrew. It was actually the perfect job for Rocky. The honorable man was a plant manager. At that moment, he was in urgent need of an assistant security guard to monitor the security cameras. Rocky missed the opportunity. The reason was his pessimistic attitude to life, which he had formed not so long ago and not at all by his will. Chapter 6. In just a year of work at the factory, Lucy has achieved a lot. The whole staff loves her. During this year, she managed to read a lot of books. At the same time, she was preparing to enter the medical school. She dreamed of tomorrow's student life even more. She dreamed of the day when she would start working as a doctor. This motivated her and pushed her forward. The competition for medical this year was also high. No matter how hard Lucy tried this year too, she failed to get admission. As she was going back home, she sighed heavily and assured herself that she would make it next year. Lucy's mother has been waiting for a call from her daughter since morning. She is worried about the exam results. Lucy sits by the window at this time. She is ashamed to report that she didn't get in. The mother decides to call herself, and from her daughter's sad voice, she realizes that there is no good news. "Mom, am I not destined to become a doctor? Am I not going to achieve anything in this life?" Lucy moaned. "Daughter, do you remember your rules? Every negative thought must be turned into a positive one. Nobody knows the rules of this game better than you. And science, now try to play this situation for yourself," said the mother. Lucy thought for a few moments. She could not find anything positive in the fact that once again she failed the entrance exams. Then her mother decided to support her. When one door closes in front of a person, another one opens. We are not meant to know the future, so it is not easy to believe it. But if you look back, you can clearly see it. A year ago, you were crying too. But life didn't stop there. You learned how to make money. You made good friends. So many interesting things have happened in a year. Now just multiply that year by 2. Mom, if you look at it that way, you're gonna be stuck in a rut your whole life. I feel like every time I fail, I'm just fooling myself. Lucy kept complaining. Come home and we'll talk about everything in detail. I'll have your favorite cherry pie ready for you, said her mother. Lucy hung up the phone and stared out the window again. After a moment, she noticed that she wanted to buy some presents for her mother and stepfather. On the way to the store, a bright thought finally struck her. Even if she didn't get in, she had a place where she was welcome and baked her favorite cherry pie. Even if she didn't become a student, she had a place to rush to and a place to hide from her dark thoughts. Finally, she found something to hold on to. At the nearest store, she bought some sweets, something for her mom. She left the store in high spirits. The time would come when she would be her own person in this town. She would work at the best clinic and help others who were suffering. Lucy was caught up in her dreams for a moment and didn't notice that she jumped out into the roadway when the traffic light turned red. She was stopped by the whistling of car wheels and the loud indignation of the man behind the wheel. Lucy was startled by the sound and tried to take a step back, but fell right under the wheels of the car. Fortunately, the car had already stopped. The man behind the wheel was even more frightened. He jumped out of the car, approached the children, and continued to be indignant. "Excuse me, I was distracted. I'm sorry, I scared you," Lucy pleaded and almost cried. Her pitiful look had an effect on the man. Now he sounded less threatening, but continued to reprimand her for her inattention. Lucy tried to stand up, but this is usually not an easy task for her. The men noticed this and helped her up off the pavement. "Are you all right?" he asked. "I'm fine, don't worry. I'll get my thoughts together now and step back on the sidewalk," said Lucy, picking up her scattered goodies. "Get in the car, I'll take you where you need to go," the man mumbled. Lucy sat in the front seat of the car, though she didn't need to go anywhere. She was worried, which frightened the man. "Where were you going anyway?" he asked. "I don't need to go anywhere. I'm staying with relatives across the street here. I came to the store to get hotels for my mother. I didn't get into medical school and I'm leaving for my village tomorrow," she said. "So you're a country girl then?" "Yes. Don't take offense to my emotions, but don't get me wrong. Who wants to go to jail for nothing? You jumped out of the way. I was distracted by my own thoughts, and I was in a bad mood." "Why were you in a bad mood?" Lucy asked. "Business stuff. My own business requires a lot of energy, and my family is not all right. My daughter is studying abroad. She's in trouble with the law. And now I have to go all the way across the world and deal with unnecessary problems again. And I was just needed here in my firm. I don't know what young people have in their heads. At every turn they do something." The man was indignant. "I think there is something positive in what is happening," said Lucy. "You're mocking me. What could be positive about it?" "Well, for one, you're needed everywhere. And you also have the ability to travel to different countries at any time. Even if it's to solve problems, you have a daughter. Let her do stupid things for now, but in the future she may become a good specialist. Try to think from this point of view," said Lucy. The man smiled, considering this young girl a naive child. "Here you didn't get in. Your parents were upset too, I guess?" he asked. "I've never seen my father, though he's alive. My mother is not upset. She is waiting for me. She promised to prepare my favorite cherry pie for my arrival. When she said that, I stopped grieving about not getting in. I have a place to come back to. Some people might not have that," said Lucy. "You're too smart for your age," said the man. "I'm afraid that intelligence is not determined by age, but by a person's life experience. As you can see, I have significant health problems. That's not an easy thing to live with. I had to harden my spirit from childhood. Otherwise, I would not be able to go out in public at all." "Good for you. I respect people like that," said the man. "But the second big blow was my not going to medical school. Then I convinced myself that now I can work and rest for a year. And so I did. I work at a large factory. They love me very much and are waiting for me to come back," said Lucy. During those 15 minutes that the man had been circling the block, they had time to talk about the most important things in their lives. The angry man was now completely calm. He listened to the young girl with interest and nodded his head after each of her thoughts. "You are very right to choose such a strategy of life. You know, life is a struggle, and if you are not strong, you can be broken. And I see that you have already become strong, which means that you will achieve a lot," said the man. Then they met. Turns out the man's name is Noah. He runs a construction company. Noah's daughter, who is making mayhem abroad, is the same age as Lucy. Noah was genuinely admired the girl's spirit and wisdom. "You know what? I'd like to be of service to you. We're finishing an apartment building in a year, and you'll need to re-enroll in the meantime. When you come to town, be sure to come to my office. I'll give you an apartment in my building. You'll be a full-fledged owner of your own apartment in the city. Let that be your motivation," said Noah. "Really? I'm even embarrassed that you'll have to go to such a big expense." "Don't think about it. I'm always interested in people with a clear mind. They're the kind of people the whole world depends on," Noah said. Then he took a business card out of his pocket and handed it to Lucy. They said goodbye warmly. At last, Noah noticed that Lucy was not particularly happy about his gift. "I think I was unconvincing. How about you come to my place tomorrow and we'll sign a contract? It would mean I'd be sure to keep my promises. It would be better for me too," said Noah. Lucy intended to refuse such a generous gift, but Noah seemed to be completely serious in his promise. The next day, at his insistence, they managed to actually sign a paper contract. One copy remained in Noah's office. The second copy, stamped and signed, Lucy put in her bag on her way to the bus station. She remembered her mother's words. "One door closes, another opens." Who would have thought it would be so easy for her to get her own place that others dream of for decades? Lucy returned home in high spirits. She was welcomed home by her mother and stepfather Hugh. Chapter 7. After a long evening family get-together, Hugh slept through his work hours in the morning. He arrived at the shop late. Thankfully, the supervisor was not yet in place. There was only his deputy, the young and ambitious Harvey. "Well, Hugh, were you celebrating again yesterday?" Harvey asked wryly. "I wouldn't say I celebrated much. It was a modest family get-together." "What was the occasion, if you don't mind me asking?" "My stepdaughter Lucy went to the city a month ago, did not enter the medical school. I felt sorry for the girl. She spent the whole year preparing, but she made a fortune. By chance, she crossed paths with some rich do-gooder, and he took pity on her and promised to give her an apartment not just in words, but directly signed a contract with her. That's how it happens. So we celebrated this event in a small circle," said Hugh. "Oh, that's interesting. Though you didn't tell me you had such an interesting stepdaughter. So, in a year you're moving to the city?" "Oh no, any of mine would disagree. This apartment, if it's really gonna be her, it's gonna be handicapped for this girl. She's gonna have a hard life. At least she'll live in her own apartment. My darling and I have enough of our country house," said Hugh. "You shouldn't say that, Hugh. There's nothing good to do in this village. No prospects. If you want to go out, you'll have to spend the whole day. You got money one day and no money the next. In the city, it's different. They've got money to spare, and if you have your own apartment, you can live happily ever after," said Harvey dreamily. "So it is indeed so. But it's all interesting to young people, and we old people are no longer to all this. By the way, Harvey, come here," said Hugh. A bright thought seemed to have just struck him. Harvey came to him. He leaned closer and whispered in his ear, "The stepdaughter's not a bad girl in her own right, and you've got him such an enviable groom, promising, handsome. Why don't you go after her? What do you think, one leg shorter than the other? That's the way God made her, but her mind and character are quite all right," said Hugh. "Are you out of your mind, Hugh? Look at me, as you say, I'm a very eligible groom. I got girls chasing me. I don't give a damn about some invalid," Harvey replied. Hugh did not continue the conversation. Their dialogue was followed by their other colleague, Charlie, a welder. Charlie did not say a word, but just silently watched the conversation between Hugh and Harvey. And when Harvey returned to the office, Charlie came to get him. They were about the same age. They spent a lot of time together and kept no secrets from each other. Charlie decided to pitch an interesting idea to his friend Harvey. After Charlie left the office, Harvey wondered to himself how he could have missed such an interesting idea. No matter what they say about this Charlie, his head works. He'd come up with a good idea. Now all that was left was to get Hugh to talk more frankly and act. A couple days later, Harvey decided to get active. He called Hugh to his office and asked him various leading questions about his family. The naturally naive elderly man told everything as it was, and Harvey was only to Harvey's advantage. "Hugh, you were saying about your stepdaughter. I thought maybe I should really hit on her," said Harvey. "What am I telling you? You won't regret it. She's a good girl. She does everything around the house. She earns her own money, and in between she can plant a vegetable garden with flowers and vegetables. She won't say anything to anyone, and you're a decent guy. You need a housewife." Hugh was pleased. "But since that's the case, tell me more about her. I want to meet her sometime." Hugh gave all the information about his stepdaughter. Harvey listened to everything attentively, and at the same time an idea was brewing in his head. But for its realization, he needed Hugh's help, and he was a kind man and might not agree. Perhaps Harvey would have to wait for an opportunity. Chapter 8. Rocky had recently saved up some money and decided to get a profession. He enrolled in a course. It's hard to get there in a wheelchair, but he's determined. He finished the course successfully. Now he has a certificate of assistant accountant in his hands. All that remained was to find a suitable vacancy and endure a few stressful meetings. But each meeting has become a special challenge for him. No one tells him to his face that they don't need disabled people. It's his own feelings of inferiority that are eating him up inside. Tonight he has a big job interview. Rocky was nervous all night and didn't sleep. By morning he came to the conclusion that in any case he had nothing to lose. If he got the job, good. If he didn't, he had nothing to lose. He'd go back to Betty and Barry's territory. The interview was conducted by a young woman with bitchy manners. She looked at Rocky's resume. Then she looked him over from head to toe. Rocky immediately felt uncomfortable in her bulky wheelchair. "But I'm independent. I'm fine with household tasks. I won't let you down," Rocky said, unable to withstand the girl's appraising gaze. "That may be true, but we've never worked with someone as special as you before. I don't know how my supervisor would feel about that. Maybe I'll try to talk to him myself," Rocky asked uncertainly. "That won't be necessary. I'll go to him myself," said the girl and left her office. She returned after a couple of minutes from the threshold, dismissively threw Rocky's resume in front of him and said, "You don't take offense, but we can't accept you. Please get the next one," said the girl. If Rocky had somehow forced himself to get over his insecurities before, but this time he snapped, he decided it was better to never stick around normal, healthy people. Anger and resentment boiled inside him. Leaving the business center, he tore his resume into small pieces and scattered it in the lobby. Then he intercepted his wheelchair and hurried to his heel, where he was not welcome to the company of homeless Barry. Barry turned up. As you'd expect, he was not happy to see his rival again. "You were going to live like these, weren't you? Like squirrels in a wheel. Crowded masses of biotrash. That they never accepted you. And I warned you, they're only driven by their own interests. They only respect power, and they only agree to things out of fear. What do you have of that? Nothing against them. You're weak, inferior. They consider only the strong, and next to people like you, they lose their strength. They don't admit it, though." Barry continued to love his philosophy. "Yeah, you were right. I was still getting by in school, but these interviews are killing me. If they're squeamish about working with a handicapped person, then please just shut up about it. I'll leave and never come back. I won't ask again, but no." And make sure to emphasize it, and then apologize for it. "Young girls and women are especially good at it. I hate them now," said Rocky. "Young man, do not judge a few fools about everyone else." A woman's voice suddenly sounded next to Rocky. He looked away from the table, looked up and saw a pretty young lady in front of him. While he stared at her in surprise, she continued her conversation. "It is clear that you have little power over your body, but you do have power over your thoughts and words. Look for the positive meaning in every unpleasant moment. It's usually not obvious, but it shows up a little later. I, for example, Couldn't get into medical school for 2 years in a row, but in that time I work, make friends, and grow," said the girl. Rocky didn't find something to answer. He hesitated. It can't be said that this girl is just comforting because she herself has the same physical flaws as him. While he was thinking, the girl said goodbye and continued on her way. Rocky watched her follow and saw the effort the girl takes to take each step. Despite this, the girl keeps her back straight and her head when raised. She also knows how to get through to people. Just now, a couple of her phrases made the word go viral. Chapter 9. Hugh showed up for work today in no mood. Harvey was glad of that. It was the opportune occasion he had long been waiting for. "Uncle Hugh, tell me why you're in a bad mood. Is your sweetheart hurting you again?" Harvey asked. "Well, yes. Who else could it be? She's all I've got. She knows that. So she's just messing with me any way she wants. I try not to react too much to her antics. After all, we're not young anymore, and I have nowhere to go. I left my old house to my wife and kids. When we got divorced, I left with only one shirt. My Kathy took me in without reproach. That's why I respect her," said Hugh. "Oh, I see. Well, then, Hugh, you're living on a powder keg. Women are unstable in their opinions. One day she's kind, and the next day someone's put her up to it. She's bound to remind you who's boss. That seems to be the way it's going," said Harvey. Hugh grew sad and thoughtful. Harvey had been waiting for this. "But you, don't kill yourself like that, Uncle Hugh. There's always a way out. For a broad to start respecting you, you have to have a good argument, you understand," said Harvey. "What kind of argument? I love her. I'm ready to give the last thing I have all my paycheck. I carry her. What other argument could there be?" Waved his hands at Hugh. "Suppose you got your own new house or car. That would be a strong argument. That would make her reckon with you, with your words. But as long as you live in her house, she thinks you're on a bird's license. You need to think about strengthening your position," said Harvey. "I don't know where you're going with this. What do you mean, strengthening your position?" Hugh was surprised and waited attentively for Harvey's answer. Harvey realized that his ruse had worked. Now he could hint at his plans. "You told me last time that some rich guy promised your stepdaughter an apartment in the city. That apartment in the city, you know, is worth 10 houses in the country. So if you and me could pull off a little operation, there's a chance we could get a good piece of everybody. You know what I mean? Don't worry, your stepdaughter won't get hurt too bad. She's not gonna be on the street. She'll still have half of this apartment." Harvey took it slow and explained it on his fingers. "So what would it take to do this?" Hugh asked. "Suppose I marry your stepdaughter, and after a while she wants to divorce me and I object. Then we'll have to divorce through the court and divide the jointly acquired property. If you do everything right, this apartment should become jointly acquired, and then we'll divide it equally. Your stepdaughter goes to buy her own place. I'll share my share with you. As you can see, everyone gets their piece of the pie. No one's getting left out," said Harvey. Hugh thought for a moment. "No, I think it's too dangerous. She won't give you half the apartment." He waved his hand. "Obviously, she won't give it to you voluntarily. That's why there's a trial. When the court rules, even millionaires give up half of their property. But you don't have to worry about that half. All you have to do is take a picture of that paper contract. I want to look at the transactions and gather information. And secondly, I just need to know where your stepdaughter works. I'll do my own thing. I'm gonna meet her and break her heart," said Harvey. "Hey, young man, you got a lot of nerve, don't you? You can't do that. I'm not gonna let that happen. You've got to have a conscience. You can't take a handicapped girl away from someone like that. God will punish you, and I shouldn't be involved." Hugh was outraged. "So you refuse to help me?" Harvey asked. "Why should I help you in dark matters? What do you take me for?" "For me, conscience and honor come first," said Hugh. "And you, Uncle Hugh, sit down. We're not done yet. Well, let's say your conscience and honor come first, but rebar and angles regularly disappear from your lot. There are witnesses who saw you selling them on the side and pocketing the money. But if the boss finds out about it, what will happen to your clean conscience and honor?" said Harvey. Hugh had clearly not expected such a devious move on the part of his young colleague. He sat down again and lost the thread of the conversation. Indeed, he and his men had such a harmless habit, sometimes to sell unwanted parts from the factory. but he had never thought that anyone could use it against him. As a result of an unpleasant argument, Hugh had to agree to all of Harvey's conditions, otherwise he would face dismissal from work. Each step. Despite this, the girl keeps her back straight and her head when raised. She also knows how to get through to people. Just now, a couple of her phrases made the word go viral. Chapter 9. Hugh showed up for work today in no mood. Harvey was glad of that. It was the opportune occasion he had long been waiting for. "Uncle Hugh, tell me why you're in a bad mood. Is your sweetheart hurting you again?" Harvey asked. "Well, yes. Who else could it be? She's all I got. She knows that. So she's just messing with me any way she wants. I try not to react too much to her antics. After all, we're not young anymore, and I have nowhere to go. I left my old house to my wife and kids. When we got divorced, I left with only one shirt. My Kathy took me in without reproach. That's why I respect her," said Hugh. "Oh, I see. Well then, Hugh, you're living on a powder keg. Women are unstable in their opinions. One day she's kind, and the next day someone's put her up to it. She's bound to remind you who's boss. That seems to be the way it's going," said Harvey. Hugh grew sad and thoughtful. Harvey had been waiting for this. "But you, don't kill yourself like that, Uncle Hugh. There's always a way out. For a broad to start respecting you, you have to have a good argument, you understand?" said Harvey. "What kind of argument?" "I love her. I'm ready to give the last thing I had on my paycheck I carry her." "What other argument could there be?" Waved his hands at Hugh. "Suppose you got your own new house or car. That would be a strong argument. That would make her reckon with you, with your words. But as long as you live in her house, she thinks you're on a bird's license. You need to think about strengthening your position," said Harvey. "I don't know where you're going with this. What do you mean, strengthening your position?" Hugh was surprised and waited attentively for Harvey's answer. Harvey realized that his ruse had worked. Now he could hint at his plans. "You told me last time that some rich guy promised your stepdaughter an apartment in the city. That apartment in the city, you know, is worth 10 houses in the country. So if you and me could pull off a little operation, there's a chance we could get a good piece of everybody. You know what I mean? Don't worry, your stepdaughter won't get hurt too bad. She's not gonna be on the street. She'll still have half of this apartment." Harvey took it slow and explained it on his fingers. "So what would it take to do this?" Hugh asked. "Suppose I marry your stepdaughter, and after a while she wants to divorce me and I object. Then we'll have to divorce through the court and divide the jointly acquired property. If you do everything right, this apartment should become jointly acquired, and then we'll divide it equally. Your stepdaughter goes to buy her own place. I'll share my share with you. As you can see, everyone gets their piece of the pie. No one's getting left out," said Harvey. Hugh thought for a moment. "No, I think it's too dangerous. She won't give you half the apartment." He waved his hand. "Obviously, she won't give it to you voluntarily. That's why there's a trial. When the court rules, even millionaires give up half of their property. But you don't have to worry about that half. All you have to do is take a picture of that paper contract. I want to look at the transactions and gather information. And secondly, I just need to know where your stepdaughter works. I'll do my own thing. I'm gonna meet her and break her heart," said Harvey. "Hey, young man, you got a lot of nerve, don't you? You can't do that. I'm not gonna let that happen. You've got to have a conscience. You can't take a handicapped girl away from someone like that. God will punish you, and I shouldn't be involved." Hugh was outraged. "So you refuse to help me?" Harvey asked. "Why should I help you in dark matters? What do you take me for?" "For me, conscience and honor come first," said Hugh. "And you, Uncle Hugh, sit down. We're not done yet. Well, let's say your conscience and honor come first, but rebar and angles regularly disappear from your lot. There are witnesses who saw you selling them on the side and pocketing the money. But if the boss finds out about it, what will happen to your clean conscience and honor?" said Harvey. Hugh had clearly not expected such a devious move on the part of his young colleague. He sat down again and lost the thread of the conversation. Indeed, he and his men had such a harmless habit, sometimes to sell unwanted parts from the factory. But he had never thought that anyone could use it against him. As a result of an unpleasant argument, Hugh had to agree to all of Harvey's conditions, otherwise he would face dismissal from work. And then there is Kathy at home with her claims she certainly will not tolerate his unemployment in her house. A couple of days later, he discreetly pulled out the contract for the transfer of the apartment and made a copy for Harvey. That same day, he gave the address of the factory where Lucy works, and Harvey even demanded her picture so that it would be easier to find her in the crowd. Chapter 10. Why are you still sitting there, Blondie? Give me your hand. You're supposed to be at the top of your game by now. Why do you live with your eyes closed? Asked the gypsy Rosalia, who ran into Rocky again today. What success? I'd already tried. It didn't work out. I think my lot in life now is begging on the streets, said Rocky. Ed, don't be so downhearted. I can see you're gonna be just fine. When you're tired of looking at the dark side of life, then maybe you'll start to realize it. Until then, sit here, burning in the sun, Rosalia said, then waved her hand and continued on her way. You see, I told you. Rosalia turned to her daughter. People organize their lives. That's how they see the world. If they want to, they'll stay where they are. That's why we must tell them only the best scenarios. They pay generously for it, and since they have paid generously, they will unconsciously start to believe in all the good things. That's the secret of our magic. She told her daughter the intricacies of her craft. After the gypsy woman left, Rocky again sank into gloomy thoughts. Maybe there really are some possibilities, but he has not been able to grasp them yet. Hello, how are you doing? I see you're looking more cheerful than last time. You've managed to find something positive in the negative. The girl gibbered at him. Rocky looked up and was convinced by a familiar face. It was the same girl who had recently been spouting some trite philosophy about good and bad. Hello, yes, everything is fine, automatically replied Rocky. The girl's compliment instantly changed his mood. Great, keep up the good work. I'm doing well too. I recently got married. Now I have someone to take care of. I'm about to enter my 3rd year. It's all because I keep believing in good things. It keeps me alive. If you'll excuse me, I'm gonna run home. I have to make dinner before my husband gets home, said Lucy, and hurried on her way. Rocky looked at her again. Lucky her husband, he thought. He watched closely the effort with which the girl moved her feet and with what persistence she pushed forward. Her willpower was evident in every step. Everyone should have so much strength and spirit to get from one point to another. It's really a great challenge for Lucy. Hiking really takes up a lot of her time and energy. Usually after each trip to the store or pharmacy, she needs some time to rest so that she can continue her day. Yes, and today she feels sore all over her body and tired. She worked all day, then stopped by the store, carrying a bag of groceries. Climbing the stairs to the 4th floor is another challenge for her. 2 months ago, Noah called her and told her the house was completely built. Lucy's mother helped to make good repairs inside the apartment. Harvey had been immensely pleased about that, and when he saw a spacious 2-bedroom apartment near the center, he was completely speechless. How much money would it be if he sold it? He's claiming exactly half that amount. That's quite a fortune. All that's left now is to organize a little fuss to take it to its logical conclusion. I have to go to the village for a couple of days. I'll stop by the factory and pick up some documents. If you want, I'll stop by your parents and say hello, said Harvey. Lucy was happy. Every parent dreams of such an attentive son-in-law. She felt grateful to Harvey. That would be great. I've missed them so much. I'll gather some presents, say hello from me, and don't forget to invite them to visit us. If they come, we can have a housewarming party. You're dreaming, Lucy. I think so too. It would be nice if they came over more often, said Harvey. The next day, after sending Harvey home, Lucy called her mother. Harvey's mom is so thoughtful of me. He's going to the village and he's coming to see you. We're doing very well and it's going to be even better if you and Hugh can find a chance to come and visit us, she said. We're delighted for you. How do you like the new place? Mother asked. Mother, it's wonderful. So much space, so much light and comfort. I still can't believe I got it all so easily. And what did you decide to do, or are you married and happy? My mother asked me. Of course I will. I'm preparing day and night, marriage itself. But no one can cancel the dream, said Lucy. Chapter 11. Harvey reached the village safely. The papers and some business, they were just an excuse. He intended to meet Hugh and talk to him about further plans. It all came together. Lucy happily collected the guests and sent them gratefully to her parents. Kathy set a sumptuous table that day. It was customary in this family to respect each other, and therefore to respect the other halves of the other family members. Lucy had never said a bad word about Hugh in her entire life, even though he had come into her mother's life when she was of age. Hugh responded in the same way. He treated Lucy as if she were his own daughter, if it hadn't been for this Harvey and his devious plans. One day, Harvey asked to go to the factory with Hugh. Old colleagues, after all. 5 years I worked there. I'd like to see my comrades and buy them a beer, said Harvey. Hugh shuddered. He was still afraid that Harvey might leak his dirt to his boss, and then he might be fired. Once Harvey married Lucy and they moved into town together, Hugh breathed a sigh of relief. He hoped that Harvey would not go to such a treacherous step after all. What if he lived with Lucy and saw what a wonderful girl she was? What if he decided that there was no need to go to all this trouble when they could live together in their own apartment? But Harvey had far-reaching plans for his life. Lucy was not in them. As soon as they left the house, Harvey began to talk. Hugh, there's only one thing left to do. Now we need your active help. Hugh stopped and stared silently at Harvey. He still hoped to change his mind, but Harvey interrupted him. It's time to think about divorce. I can't do it alone. Lucy's too kind. I can't even get into a fight with her. That's why there's nothing to complain about. Her food is always good and her house is always in perfect order. I've noticed she listens to her mother without question, and you're the only one who can influence her mother, said Harvey. So what do you want me to do? Why don't you tell her I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt? If she asks why that is, then hint that you suspect me of being unfaithful to Lucy. Hugh didn't understand why such a complication was necessary. Then Harvey had to explain everything on his fingers. Your wife loves her daughter very much. If she believes that her son-in-law, that is, I am cheating on her, it will be a blow to her. Then, according to a woman's logic, she will want to save her daughter so she won't be bitter. Unnoticeably, she will begin to interfere in our lives. Since Lucy obeys her in everything, she will soon believe that I am cheating on her. That's a strong enough argument to file for divorce, Harvey said. Hugh shook his head. What a conniving fellow that boy is in his 25 years. He tried once more to change his mind, but nothing came of it. Harvey again recalled Hugh's petty sins at work and threatened to go to the director right away and tell him everything. That was Harvey's whole purpose. After the conversation, he stayed in the village for 2 more days, had enough of Kathy's culinary delights and hurried to the city, where he waits for his caring wife Lucy. But he didn't go home. He'd been missing for 2 more days. Lucy decided to keep quiet about it. If he saw fit, he would tell her himself, she thought. Chapter 12. 2 weeks had passed since the trip to the village. Harvey didn't come home for the night again. Lucy unobtrusively tried to find out. He waved it off, saying he'd been asked to fill in at work. She believed it. Indeed, they had recently moved to the city and Harvey had taken a job with a large company as a technician. They might often be called in to work at night, and at this time a mother's heart felt something wrong. Kathy woke up towards morning and couldn't go back to sleep. So that she wouldn't be so bored, she started to wake her husband. Hugh wanted to sleep some more, but his wife was persistent. She brewed 2 glasses of hot coffee and brought them into the bedroom. Why are you waking me up so early? I have to go to work. I wanted a proper rest. Hugh was indignant. I had a bad dream. In it, I saw Lucy with Harvey. She's sitting in the corner crying for some reason. And this Harvey guy is having some kind of coven in their apartment. I thought something was going wrong with their relationship. Don't you think so? Kathy asked. Hugh remembered Ruslan's assignments. He would have kept silent, but Harvey had warned him he'd be back in 2 months to check whether he'd done the right thing or not. And for days, Hugh couldn't find the right opportunity. And now he's found the right opportunity. Actually, I think this Harvey is unfaithful to our daughter. That's my male perspective. Don't be so hard on yourself. You better talk to your daughter, have her take a good look at him. Otherwise, it may be too late, and she'll be the one to suffer, said Hugh. In Katie's mind, all the puzzles came together. First, Lucy had told her that Harvey hadn't come home from the village right away, then her bad dream, and then Hugh's premonition. The process had been set in motion. To push away the disturbing thoughts, Kathy called her daughter towards evening. "I didn't go to work today. I didn't sleep well last night. I felt wrecked this morning. Especially Harvey left for work the day before yesterday, and he still hasn't shown up. I think he's under a lot of pressure at the new place," said Lucy. "Are you sure if he's really at work?" asked the mother. "Harvey's mother is not prone to affairs on the side, so we can close this topic," said the daughter. Katie listened to Lucy, but there was no peace of mind. On the other hand, she was only 20 years old. Katie remembered how naive she herself had been at her age. It seemed that without her active intervention, her daughter would not deal with her unfaithful husband. Kathy decided to spring into action. Chapter 13. The restless dreams about her daughter increased in frequency. Kathy came to the conclusion that she should definitely visit the young ones. Take a couple weeks off work and get ready to go into town. There's obviously something going on in the young people's lives. I'd like to observe it myself, said Katie. Hugh was never good at saying no to anyone. He got off work with great difficulty and drove into town with his wife. Now we have to find a hotel, said Katie. The young ones have a big apartment. We won't stay long. Maybe we could stay with them, said Hugh. No, then we wouldn't know the true state of affairs. They'll pretend everything's all right. At least I know my daughter is. We'll watch them from the sidelines, said Katie. They checked into an inexpensive hotel not far from their daughter's apartment. Lucy was surprised when her parents said they were staying in a hotel. Her mother was able to convince her that it was best for everyone. Family dinner was over. Harvey was still not home. Does Harvey always work this late? Katie asked. Sometimes he's even 2 or 3 days late. He says it's a lot of work. If he doesn't agree, he could be fired, said Lucy. At the same time, Kathy noticed that her daughter did not have the same sparkle in her eyes, as if something inside her was telling her something was wrong. But following her optimistic principles, she pushed those thoughts away. Lucy walked her parents to the hotel and handed them the spare keys to the apartment. Since you want to live apart from us, you can come and visit anytime, she said one last time. Then she went home herself. The next day, she had a preparatory course for medical school. After her studies, she wanted to go for a walk around the city. As hard as it was for her, she had barely taken a couple of steps when the image of an elderly man appeared in front of her. Mademoiselle, pardon my intrusiveness, but the pipes are on fire. I don't know if you realize what it is or not. Anyway, you need some money to improve your health, said the older man. You can tell he's been drinking for days on end. He reeks of bad odor. But Lucy is not used to squeamishly turn away from such people. She indifferently slipped her hand into her pocket and gathered up whatever was there. Then she gave it to the man. He thanked her with polite curtsies for a long time. Lucy continued on her way. She made her way to the nearest bus stop to prepare payment for transportation. She opened her wallet and found it empty. In her bag, there was no extra money left in any corner. She has this habit of spending money without counting to the last penny. Well, it was a nice silly thing that happened to her. While she was thinking about what to do next, her gaze fell on a man who was getting out of a car. She approached him without a second thought and asked him for some money for the road. The man didn't ask any questions, took out his wallet and handed Lucy 3 large bills. I'm sorry, that's a lot. It's enough to get me home. As it is, I don't need it. I just gave the last of my money to a beggar, said Lucy. I saw you giving money to that tramp. That was nice of you. Consider that I give you this money as a gift, not for transportation, but as a token of admiration for your dignity, said the man. Lucy was still uncomfortable taking the money. She insisted that he give 30 times less than he was holding out now. Their argument dragged on for a long time. The man didn't seem to be in any hurry to get anywhere. They got to talking. The man turned out to be a top manager at a security systems company. Honest, responsible, and kind people like you are needed in our modern age. It's people like you that keep the world going. If you need anything, you can tell me directly. If you want to work, our company is ready to provide such an opportunity. It's not a difficult job. You just have to sit and watch the processes on the screen, said the man. Thank you, but I'm thinking about studying. If I don't get in for the third time, I'll come to work for you. In the meantime, I know who is right for you. I can't promise for him, but I'll try to talk to a good person," said Lucy, as if recalling someone from an old memory. She then asked for 2 business cards from the man. She kept one for herself and would take the other one to someone today, especially since it had been a while since she had visited the man. Rocky found himself in the same sour mood looking at passersby. He occasionally argues with Barry and looks away longingly. "So, what's the news? Any changes in your life?" Lucy asked. "I went to a couple more interviews. They said they'd call me sometime. It's better than an outright rejection, but I know they'll never call," said Rocky. "In the meantime, I've already made a deal with one employer for you. Promised you dialed his number and arranged a meeting. He won't say no to you. Just tell him it's for me," said Lucy, handed her business card to the unknown nobleman and went home. Chapter 14. That day, Katie knew that Harvey would definitely come home from work and Lucy would not be home. If he really was unfaithful, he might be bringing someone to their house. "We should follow him," she thought. The next moment, a brilliant idea struck her. She had the keys to their apartment after all. Hugh was fidgeting about getting somewhere. "I want to look at the car and some spare parts. You're not going to find anything interesting there, so I'm going alone," he said. "I wasn't going with you. I got my own stuff to do. I want to go shopping. I wouldn't want you there," she said. They both left the hotel and went their separate ways. Both lied to each other. Katie took quick steps to her daughter's apartment and opened the door with her key. She had prearranged a hiding place. In classic fashion, it turned out to be her daughter's spacious closet. She climbed in, held her breath, and waited for what would happen next. The next events didn't take long. She heard the door open and someone came in. Carefully, she opened the closet door. She saw Harvey in the hallway, but he wasn't alone. There was someone else beside him. Listening carefully, she heard 2 male voices. She was silently horrified and christened herself. The men didn't bother with ceremony. They immediately sat down on the sofa in the living room and started pulling something out of the bags. From the sound of bottles being opened, Katie realized that drinking was planned. "Hugh, for some reason our plans are moving slowly. The girls are being very quiet. That way you and I can waste half our lives," said Harvey. Now Kathy's whole body turned to attention and began to listen. It seems that the son-in-law and father-in-law have some secrets between them. The shameless one lied half an hour ago that he was going to look at car parts. Seems pretty serious. "But what do you want from me?" "What you said I did. You do it yourself. You're better at it than I am," said Hugh. "Have you ever tasted beer like this?" Harvey asked Hugh, taking a colorful bottle out of the bag. "You know, I actually quit 2 months ago, and now I'm signing up for the company. I've got to clean up the smell afterwards so my Katie doesn't come up. By the way, she can usually tell with her spinal cord when I'm about to drink. I should call her now and make sure she doesn't show up in front of me out of nowhere right now," said Hugh. Katie was startled and started frantically remembering. Had she left her phone in her bag or in her pocket? It didn't take long for the answer to come. Her phone rang at full volume. It was in her pocket. Hearing the ringing from the closet, Harvey and Hugh froze. Katie at this time was desperately trying to knock the ringer out, but she didn't know how to do it. In her efforts, she hit a stack of things in the closet with her hands. The stack fell on top of her. Katie fell out of the closet with a clatter. "Oh, you Katie, aren't you ashamed of lying? I thought you said you were going out to look at rags, and you're following me around like you always do. You should have at least warned me. I was about to have a heart attack," said Hugh. Harvey turned pale, fearing for his recent conversation about the plans. Now he had to pretend it had actually been fun. Only Kathy wasn't about to give in to that. "Harvey, we need to talk. Quickly, let's go to the hotel," she said. Hugh had never been good at saying no to her. He was sorry to leave so many bottles of New Year's beer behind, but his wife's word was law to him. As soon as they got to the hotel room, Kathy cornered him. "Okay, so you talk. Tell me what I don't know," she asked sternly. No, I'm not in cahoots with him. I was really shopping for parts. I met him by chance. He insisted that we go with him and have a beer. That's all I know." "Did Hugh deny it?" "No, I heard everything. He talked about some plans. Harvey said your plans were taking too long. What plans were we talking about? We were me and him. He and I were gonna go out on the prowl. That's what we were joking about the other day. That's what he was talking about. That's all I know. Hugh begged. A knave man, he wanted to repel Katie's attack in this way. But it turned out to be the other way around. You senile old fool. Look at yourself. You're retiring the day after tomorrow. What the hell kind of corrupt? Kathy was outraged, beating him with a kitchen towel. When Katie got tired of yelling at him, she gave her verdict. Get your stuff and get out of here. I don't want an old lecker next to me, she declared. Hugh was not known to refuse his wife, even in such critical situations. He silently submitted to his wife. True, he did not take his things with him, but left as he was. He did not find it in himself to tell Harvey's insidious plans. Chapter 15. After her husband left, Kathy, still nervous for a long time. No, it wasn't true. If they were really going after corrupt wenches, her husband would have covered it up. Clearly, there is some other secret between them. Katie fell asleep with these thoughts. During the night, she had another disturbing dream about her daughter and son-in-law. It couldn't be left like this, she decided. The next day, while talking to Lucy, Kathy casually asked for the address of Harvey's place of work. She decided to follow him further on her own. She didn't have to suffer long. On the third day, Harvey was found having dinner with a pretty girl. Katie immediately approached him. Harvey didn't hesitate. How do you do? What a surprise meeting. I ran into a childhood friend. We're having dinner. What brings you here? Harvey asked. Harvey, you can tell your childhood friend's story somewhere else. Lucy is my knave one. Of course, she'll believe it, but you can't fool me. What's your secret with Hugh? Or I'll tell your childhood friend to my daughter right now, she said. If you do, you be doing me a favor. I was going to tell her myself, but she's vulnerable, you know. It might look cruel to her, so if you would be so kind as to tell her now. And keep in mind, we're splitting the apartment in the divorce, said Harvey. Kathy realized her son-in-law's true intentions. In fact, Harvey was glad that he had finally found a reason for the divorce. He didn't even have to make much effort. He had spent a lot of time with different girls before. Lucy, with her naivety and gullibility, overlooked it. Harvey even began to tire of her carelessness. And here Mother came in handy. He wasn't wrong. Her mother would play a key role in bringing this plan to fruition. Kathy was confused by her son-in-law's insolence, but she was in no hurry to tell her daughter. She had an entrance exam in a week. If she was nervous, she might fail it. She decided to wait for a while. Chapter 16. Lucy rushes to the institute early this morning to find out the results of the exam. Katie is more nervous than her daughter, so she decided to go along with her. In the foyer of the institute, there were a lot of people at the wallboard where the list of enrolled students is posted. A huge crowd. Someone is rejoicing and accepting congratulations. Someone is moving away from the crowd with a sad face. You better stay here. I'll go see for myself, said Katie to Lucy. After a few minutes, she regretted that she had taken such a step. Her daughter's name was not on the enrollment list. I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. Your name's not on there. We better go to the study hall and check it out. Come on, daughter, she said, pushing back the tragic moment for her daughter. In the reception area of the training department, a young girl rummaged through the papers for a long time, then pulled out a list and handed it to Katie. There can be no mistake. This is a complete list of those who took the exams. Here you can see the number of points, the girl said. Lucy feverishly began to study the list. Her surname appeared in the first row of another table, which contains everyone who didn't reach the threshold, the score just a little bit. This means that if any of the applicants do not want to study, they will be invited to the list, the girl at the front desk explained. So I still have a chance? Lucy asked. Theoretically, yes, but there are no guarantees, answered the girl. Mother and daughter returned home in a sad mood. Katie tried in every way to distract her daughter from despair. She realized that she had another unpleasant news to digest. She advised her daughter to rest and began to prepare dinner. When dinner was ready, the front door opened and closed with a bang. Katie was startled. Running out of the kitchen into the hallway, she saw Harvey. He was barely on his feet. Oh, my mother-in-law's here. She's probably already pleased her daughter with the sensational news about her unfaithful son-in-law. he said wryly. How can you get so drunk, so crazy? And what a tone of voice. Lucy's resting. And you, if you want to go to dinner, said Katie. No, Mom, I don't want to go to dinner. I've had enough of your daughter's dinners. Why don't we talk to you? I've been waiting a week for your daughter to invite me to the carpet. And you haven't told her anything? Don't be silly. Go to bed, lie down, or sit down to dinner. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Kathy tried her best to calm her son-in-law down, but he was determined. He was really tired of waiting for Lucy to explode with indignation and be the first to talk about divorce. Tonight, he intended to have a typical family scandal with breaking dishes, shouting, and screaming. Maybe then it would finally work, but his mother-in-law interfered. The scandal didn't work. Chapter 17. The important conversation didn't take place until 3 days later. Kathy sat her daughter down across from her and said, I've been watching your Harvey for a long time, and you know, I think he's got a lot of skeletons in his closet. Mom, don't think like that. If you're referring to this tardiness at work, there's nothing to worry about. He's really busy. She waved it off. Did you know that he and Hugh had some secret in common? I tried to find out, but Hugh ran away from me. I've been alone for 2 weeks now. I don't even know where he's gone. Mom, why didn't you tell me? Where is he now? What kind of secrets could there be between them? Yeah, they used to work together. Maybe some man-to-man talk? I think you're exaggerating, said Lucy. I still feel bad about you. In fact, that's why I came with Hugh, to observe your life. A mother's heart is a mother's heart, for I have followed your Harvey. And you know he was sitting in a cafe with some girl, said she was a childhood friend. Did you know he had girlfriends? Yeah, I knew he had a lot of girlfriends. There are also colleagues at work, young girls, most of them my age. They're all healthy, unlike me. Mom, if I keep torturing myself with all this, there's nothing left of me. It's enough that he chose me. We're fine. We each have our own goals and plans. The rest, I think, is just little things. Transient moments, Lucy assured her mother. God willing, if that's true. You know what? Let's go shopping today. If you're lucky enough to get into the institute instead of someone else, you'll go to school, and a student doesn't have a lot of clothes, said the mother. The daughter didn't refuse. Mama, I feel sorry for Uncle Hugh. You've never fought so much before. He's so harmless and naive. What if something happened to him? Why don't you look for him? Lucy kept asking me. Where would I look for him in this town of yours? I've been waiting 3 days for him to come forward, and he's an old fool who doesn't know what he's thinking. Katie was indignant. Chapter 18. 2 months passed. Kathy decided to stay close to her daughter until the enrollment issue was cleared up. Near the beginning of the school year, they went to the institute together and learned that no one refused to give up their place. Lucy would not be enrolled. She lay there for 3 days, not eating, drinking, or talking. Her mother tried to distract her, but to no avail. Harvey told me a couple weeks ago that he was being sent on a business trip abroad. He came back tanned and refreshed. Katie had no questions for him. The next morning, Lucy wakes up early. She sees her mother suffering because of her and stays up at night. Today, she decides to make coffee for her with her own hands. And in the kitchen on the table, she finds a note from Harvey. He says he's leaving her and filing for divorce. It was as if Lucy had a premonition of this. She sat down at the window and cried. She hadn't yet had time to think of the positive side of not being admitted for the 3rd year in a row. And here was such a setback in her personal life. What could be positive about it? I can't think of anything. Maybe Mom can find the right words. She always knew how to do that. We should talk to her about it. Lucy tiptoed into the living room and put the tray on the table. Mom was awake. Harvey's mom had left. She said quietly, "We're to work." "No, for good. He left me a note on the table saying he was going to file for divorce." Katie got out of bed and hugged her daughter. "We need a lawyer," she thought to herself, remembering Harvey's words about dividing the apartment. Chapter 19. A week later, Lucy received a summons to appear in court. Her divorce case was being heard there. Kathy has not yet told her daughter about Harvey's intentions. She is afraid that her daughter may not be able to handle so many trials at once. "Mom, you don't need to come with me. Harvey and I don't have any big arguments. I'll decide everything myself. You stay home and cook me something." Lucy insisted. How could I? Actually, you need a lawyer. I've already arranged for one. He'll be there for you. Katie was worried. Why do I need a lawyer? I'm not going to argue with Harvey. If he wants a divorce, he can have a divorce. We humans are adults. We should be able to let each other go, said Lucy. Despite the arguments, Lucy decided to go alone. Katie stayed home with bated breath. Even if the court orders a division of property, there is still time to delay the process and not let this cynical man rob her daughter. To distract herself from her negative emotions, Kathy decided to bake her daughter's favorite cherry pie. Lucy returns quickly. She's holding a cake and some fruit. How'd it go? It's over. Mom, your daughter is now a divorcee in her 20s. Or to put it another way, a free bird. Why are you so happy? What did you talk to him about? He claimed half the apartment. I knew he was gonna do that. That's why you need a lawyer. But we don't need a lawyer because there's nothing to split. What do you mean, nothing? What about the apartment? Harvey overlooked something important. It's finished, but the deed hasn't been officially filed yet. Noah's having some trouble with the deeds. He said he'd have them done within a year, but he hasn't gotten around to it yet. So legally, I don't have any apartment. The documents will come later. Since I am free now, the apartment will be completely my property, said Lucy. Katie breathed a sigh of relief. After lunch, Lucy said she wanted to go to the store and buy some things for the house. Katie decided to rest. Her daughter returned from her walk in high spirits. Mom, do you remember yesterday morning when I was agonizing over the fact that you and I couldn't find a single positive thing to say about our current situation? She asked. Well, yes, and I couldn't comfort you. Well, the positive thing found itself. Today, I was going through my purse and accidentally found a business card of a good man. He once said that people like me are the reason the world survives. And he also said that he would be happy to see such an honest and responsible person in the ranks of his employees. At that time, I didn't need a job. I helped another person to get a job there. Today, I called this kind man. He is waiting for me at his office tomorrow. If anything, I will start work soon, said Lucy. Katie was a little calmer now. Chapter 20. The interview with that kind stranger named Anthony was held in a friendly atmosphere. Lucy, the first thing you thought of was Rocky and asked how he was doing. Rocky turned out to be a very tenacious and dedicated guy. He's proven himself to be a dedicated employee. We recently got him a grant for treatment at a foreign clinic. They promised to restore him to full health. If everything goes well, he should return on his own feet, Anthony said. One more piece of good news for today and for me. Do you have an opening? Lucy asked. I do. Come on, I'll introduce you to the personnel specialist. He'll have you registered as a new employee tomorrow, said Anthony. Lucy's job turned out to be really easy. At first, the staff looked at her with pity and curiosity. But as soon as she spoke to them, they immediately changed their mood and attitude towards this strong-spirited girl. She kept thinking and worrying about Rocky. What if the treatment doesn't work and he can't get back on his feet? I mean, he's so touchy and moody. It would be hard to calm him down. That's what Lucy thought of him. A month went by on one of her usual working days. Someone walked into Lucy's office. The person's face seemed very familiar, but Lucy didn't recognize a fit and healthy Rocky right away. Lucy, you have no idea how grateful I am to you. You are a real fairy, he said and held out the bouquet. I can't believe you're back on your feet. I'm so happy for you, Lucy exclaimed. It had only been 6 months. All this time, Lucy thought about the documents for the apartment. The process was dragging on and on. On the day when Noah called and said that the documents were ready, Lucy had no time for phone calls. She had forgotten her phone somewhere and was going through wedding dresses. Rocky was excited, anticipating meeting the bride's parents. Kathy and Hugh decided to stay at their daughter's house instead of a hotel this time. The day before, Lucy suddenly remembered that her mother and stepfather had once been in a quarrel, that her stepfather had even left her. Mother, where did you find Hugh? He'd run away. Where? Where? In the village? At his house. Where else would he be? Kathy answered. They didn't have time to talk much. They must go to bed early, because tomorrow was Lucy's wedding to Rocky. By the time Lucy got to the institute, Casey was already running around. And so, finally, Casey learned her parents' love story.